My name is Camden Hutchison. I'm an assistant professor here at the Faculty of Law, and my research is in the area of corporate law history, and my teaching is in the business law curriculum. I was a corporate transactional attorney in the United States for about 5 years, and that was a very intense experience. And most of the people I knew were either going to smaller law firms and just practicing at a somewhat less intense level, or they were going to in-house opportunities or things like that, neither of which seemed particularly interesting to me. And I had always been interested in academics. So I left my job and I went back to grad school and I got a PhD in history. I got a job interview at UBC. I learned more about the university. I came and visited, interviewed, and I was just blown away. And it was this really amazing sort of arbitrage opportunity where I was able to basically, position myself in this just amazing, world-class law school. Integrating my research and my teaching is not always easy because my research focuses primarily on the history of corporate law, but my teaching focuses primarily on the practice of corporate law. And those two approaches don't necessarily dovetail. So for my business law courses, like business organizations, corporate transactions, which are very practice-focused, I obviously spend most of the time talking about the state of the law today, but I do try to devote at least one lecture per course to historical developments. And I think if you look at sort of how business and corporate structures have changed over the last 50 years or so, it can actually provide you a lot of insight into the really central corporate governance problems that a lot of businesses and a lot of business lawyers continue to deal with today. So I do think that the history is very relevant. But in my teaching, I actually like to provide my students a fair amount of U.S. corporate law, or Delaware corporate law more specifically, because I think that comparative context actually really helps them understand the Canadian law. Just the volume of cross-border transactional activity between Canada and the U.S. is so large that a lot of my students are almost inevitably going to be dealing with U.S. related transactions in practice, once they become lawyers, particularly if they're working at larger law firms. So that's another reason that I really try to tell my students, you need to have at least some kind of superficial familiarity with sort of like Revlon duties and things like that, things that come out of the Delaware jurisprudence, because I think that's going to be helpful for them in practice.